Well, hello there. This is Shiva, and well, long time no see, right? I've been actually quite busy, but I'm getting a little bit more spare time recently, and I got into a graphics mood. And I decided that it was time to replace all of my textures with brand new versions. A lot of the textures that I use are literally 20 years old. They're very small. They don't have definition. They don't have the textures that I want. They don't have, I guess it's the bump map, as you would call it. There's no depth to them. So I've been working on replacing my textures. And as you see here, this is the PSD file for my ball images, also sphere maps, what I use for sphere mapping objects in future pinball. Now, let's have a look here. And as you can see, this is 512 by 512 because I wanted larger images because on larger objects like walls and stuff, you would want a larger image because that means more detail to that wall. So here we go. As you can see, I have a nice little red one here, and as you can see, I have various types of textures. For instance, I have a metal here, and we have chrome, and we have copper and darker versions. And then I have crystals and bulbs and a whole set of red textures. I was just trying to figure out which one I wanted to use for my plastic posts, and then of course I have a textured section here, which makes sense. This is a Rust image, so that's what I'm doing now. Also, as well, since I was in the graphics mood, I found a copy of my original playfield that I did 10 years ago of Sorcerer. And I've been spending the last 3 months, a little bit, an hour here, an hour there, in trying to improve the actual quality of this, and also to try out a couple of new ideas that I've been having. One of the things that I really have noticed is the modern trend with other developers is to make their images as perfect as possible. Solid blocks of color, perfect lines, and everything else. So, and I did this with a plastic, and I have one here to show you as an example. And this is the center target. And as you can see, it's pretty much close to being perfect, isn't it? The only problem is it also looks like a cartoon. It doesn't actually look like a pinball plastic. And you can see that here. There is no color definition. There's no texturing on it. There's no gloss. And everything is a perfect. Like this yellow is a completely perfect yellow. It doesn't, there's no variations in it whatsoever. So this is what I've been trying to do, is to come up with a new method in which we can have some color variations going on here. And also there's a small texture here. There's an experiment. It's a small wood texture. As you can see, it shows up really well here, but it's pretty much overlaid over everything. On top of it, the color blocks, like the solid colors, there's 6 colors in this image, and black and white. But the colors are, I now have a variation in the colors. Hang on, let's show it. Oh, it's right here in the cape. If you look very closely, some sections of the purple cape are actually a little bit darker than other sections. And the reasoning behind it is very simple. When they use paint, when they use paint to do their playfields, paint does not, when it's dry, it does not stay as a one consistent color. There are slight variations in that color within the paint. So that's what I'm trying to achieve right now. And I do have to say that compared to a normal way of doing things, the way that's done now, I actually think that this looks a little bit better. I can still play around with it a little bit more. I can add a little bit more highlights. I can add a little bit more shadows to the image. And I do intend to put a very glossy finish on this as another experiment. And because when I show you in FP what the game looks like in terms of progress right now, you will notice that there's a lot of colors going on in there. There's a lot of reflections and objects that are pretty tough to reflect, like the side of walls and everything else. So you will notice this is a grand experiment more than anything else. Now, with the center target, I should mention I went with the purple and pink version, as you could see from the main image. There are two different versions of Sorcerer in terms of the coloring. The so-called purple and pink version, and the other one being the blue and red version. Now, I chose the pink and purple version because it seemed to be the one that was the artist's preference. It's the way that it was originally done. And there's a lot of speculation on why there's two different colored versions, and the general consensus is because it was very likely that two separate companies did the silk screening for the playfield and the plastic. If you look at the CPR version, the classic playfield version, their plastic, especially of this one, it's not white, but it's actually blue. So the white is not, so it's actually all blue instead of white and blue. And that's probably because that was the blue and red version. It's either that or the company just ran out of paint, right? And it just says, oh, well, we're out of white. Hey, there's some blue that we've got left over. Let's just use that. Look, back then, the companies were not exactly paragons of quality control. Let's put it that way. And finally, I'm going to just show my new test lock system. Now, there's a lock in Sorcerer, and it's a solid piece of metal that's along the side to prevent the ball from escaping from the ramp system and to help guide it into the lock system. And this is the general shape. Now, I showed this at Pinball Nevada yesterday, and I've redone the shape a little bit so that it fits better. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this is that, in case you're wondering, it's a white and a black image. This is just the base image. I'm just using the right portion of this to line everything up. You'll see it very shortly. I should mention, though, with Photoshop, that you can actually hide the white, or you can hide the black, and you can show what's directly underneath it. So this has already got a mask attached to it. It's that button right there, but it will add a mask. And if you change the blend and you put it to say multiply, then the right is hidden, and anything that's underneath it will show. While if you do it with, like, say, screen, you can see it's the opposite. So if I turn that layer off, there's my metal. But if I set this to multiply, then the white is removed completely, because that's what multiply does. You still get the black frame out there, so you can you can set your transparency as black, and you have the image. I've just started working on trying to decide which metal I want for this. So this is just a test one. There's also another one right here too as well. See, that's a sort of slightly darker version. But I'll be loading in different metals and seeing how they look compared to the actual metal. I have a feeling that it's a more galvanized kind of look, because one image is clearly showing that it's actually galvanized steel that they used, and they just gave a very light polishing, but we'll see. Anyway, here's the game, and as you can see, I still got a ways to go to in building it, but this is my progress so far. And as you can see, there's really, I'm just testing out my new metal textures in game, and I have about roughly 50 metal strip textures. I have about another 50 ball images that I'm using for sphere maps, and I'm just testing out to see what works and what does not, because a metal texture, for instance, could work fine on say, a little peg like this, but it doesn't work on a bigger peg. It doesn't look as good, while vice versa with other metal textures. And certain textures, like the texture that's along the line along here, the outer wall, well, you have to make a big texture and you have to sort of do it by hand. This is a combination of using preset images from the web, which for balls and stuff, and then a whole bunch of textures that I had to make from scratch. And I'm basically just been experimenting with different textures on different objects to see what's working, what looks the best. And I'm trying to do it so that if you look close enough, you will be able to see the actual textures on objects instead of like a blob of color. So let's just show you what it's like. Should also mention, it looks as if I have finally managed to get full screen video on here. We may see a little bit of tearing, we may see a little bit of fuzziness, we may see a little bit of weird glowing going on here. FP's 15 years old. It's as simple as that. That's pretty much the reason. And video recording software just don't like older programs. I've tried, I got it to work in OBS. I've tried other video programs. They had the same problem that OBS had originally, but I think I've managed to fix this. So what you're seeing now is in fact the game. And this is the view that I showed at Pinball, Nevada, but we're going to be moving around so you'll be able to see some new reflection techniques that I've been trying to cook up here and been experimenting with. But as it is, this is what the game looks like. So I'm going to go with F5 and you can see what it looks like at its lowest setting. And we're going to move around. And we're going to see, you can see various views. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to hit F11, and I'm going to just go back here, and then we're going to go forward. Now I mentioned the reflection techniques, and what I meant by that is if you're in camera mode, or if you move the camera, if you look at the metal guide lane at the very back there, just below the eyes, you can see it's got a really nice texture and everything else. But if you look very carefully, you will see, I'll go up a little closer than this, that as you turn the camera, the reflection is moving, and yet you're still able to see texture behind it. And this is something, sphere maps do not show texture very well. They will, if you use a textured sphere map and then you set it to sphere map, you get the reflections, but you also don't get any detail in that image. It becomes a very blurred blob of colors, which is what it does. But as you can see, it's looking at the strip that below it, as you can see, we've got both. I'm going to still be playing around with it. I really don't know if I've got the settings perfect yet. But anyway, this video is just to show you a close-up of some of the new graphics details that I'm doing. As you can see, well, let's go back here actually and start over here. And as you can see, we've got a lot of new textures. Now, if you look at the screw that's attached to the bracket, you can actually see the texture. I went through at least 10 to 15 completely different textures and then had to modify one of them in Photoshop. In fact, this texture is actually, I believe, completely made from scratch, but I finally got it so that it looks really nice, and yet you can just see the textures on them too as well. And even if you look right there, even the acorns have textures. And of course, as we go over here, you can see that the posts are little stand-up posts are working. And the posts itself, the plastic posts, also got new textures on it. You saw the red textures. I showed you a list. I went through about 7 or 8 of them before I finally got the combination that I want. Generally with this build, I'm not using any kind of color to overlay over the object. I'm trying to just use just nothing but white. And that means that if I ever decide to do texture swapping on an object in the script, I don't have to worry about the color kind of changing things the way I don't want it to. It's best to do it with graphics as opposed to color anyway, if you want shading or you want different sun source. So there you go. That's the reason why. Now that big white thing I showed you, there it is. And I have finally resized it, and as you can see, I'm starting to build and test out the top metal flap that keeps the ball from jumping up over the strip. And I'm also doing a ramp, though it's very preliminary right now. As you can see, it just goes and then it just suddenly drops, and it should actually be rounded, so I'll be doing that. I know people probably won't notice that, but you know, it's the way I do things, I guess. And as you can see, the metal flap that's around there, I've got it almost perfect. I think that is pretty close to exactly how it should be. I just have to find a metal texture that will work with that. The other thing that you notice is that there's some plastics here, and I'm just testing the original stock plastics that I did to see how they display, and well, not very good. So looks as if I am going to have to transfer my playfield style over to the plastics, and that's not going to be fun, especially this one that I chose to display. This is the target plastic. It's pretty bad. It's very, very tough to find the resources for it, but most importantly is the level of dots and the level of detail. And even though this is a 4K monitor, and that is the image size perfectly to a 4K monitor resolution, you can see it didn't come out very well. And same with this guy too as well. It's a lot clearer, it's a lot more defined, but it's still noticeably fuzzy. So I'll see if this new technique works, but it does look as if I am going to have to redo all of the plastics again. So, bummer, right? But you know what? This is without doubt one of the most gorgeous machines ever made in pinball. It just seemed to be just a perfect combination. It's an absolutely fabulous looking game, but the amount of detail in this game is insane. The one thing I will mention is that if I ever do actually script this game and actually release it, I am going to mark this as a 4K game, and I will show you why in a very simple manner. It's very simple. The lower the resolution that you have on this game, the worse the graphics are going to look. And I will, let's use this as an example here. This is about as close to perfect. I believe this particular image took me nearly 3 weeks, and I literally went dot for dot, and I did this about 10 years ago. This is the actual size of the image. So we will, first off, we're going to zoom this down to about roughly what it would look like on a 4K as a cabinet. In cabinet view, about 25%. In other words, a quarter the size of the actual image that I do. And as you can see, the dots are still noticeable, but you notice how compressed they are. Now, suppose you're in 1080p and you're in desktop mode. Oops. Down. That's about roughly the size that you're going to have. On top of it, it's going to be slanted, so it will look even worse because there will be less lines of resolution between the top and the bottom to actually draw it. So it depends on your viewing mode, but if you're using, say, F2, you lose about maybe 20-25% of the amount of resolution to be able that you have to be able to draw that. So it's going to be really, really, really bad, like pretty much that quality. And that is the reason why I'm going to label Sorcerers as a 4K only type of game, because the graphics are going to be destroyed. The graphics are so fine in Sorcerer. And you saw the other plastics and just how much detail they are, and just how many tiny little dots there were. There's literally hundreds of thousands of tiny little dots to do in Sorcerer. So you can see what's going to happen. Everything's going to just become this blob of color if you're viewing this on 1080. So, you know, the best thing I can do is do this in really high resolution. And in 20 years, when everybody on this planet has an 8K television in their household, they'll be able to view it in the resolution that I intended. But if you don't have an 8K monitor, or even if you don't have a 4K monitor, all I can say is, well, sorry. There's not really much you can really do about it. It's going to look very, very compressed and very fuzzy if you have if you use a 1080p monitor or something like that. Not much you can do about it. It's the way the game was drawn. So not much else you can say about that. This does come out pretty good because it's a larger image, and I spent a lot of time going over the detail of this game, but even the beard sort of gets a little compressed, even on a 4K monitor, which is what I'm recording this video at, is in 4K, so can't really do all that much about it. Okay, well, I guess that's it. I really wanted to make this a short video, so hopefully it's short enough. In the meanwhile, thank you very much for watching. And next time I do another video, and hopefully it won't take 6 months, I hope you'll be able to join me. In the meanwhile, happy pinball, and bye for now.